Hey guys, Nystel here. In the spirit of the new Modern Warfare 2 patch, was just released this week, I thought I would bring you guys some gameplay from that. And this is the second episode of my Storytime series. You may remember me from about a month ago when Huppet Gaming posted up my first episode of Storytime about boot camp. Now, this particular episode will be about Iraq and a couple of things, what happened to me in Iraq, a story, and then finally what exactly did I do in Iraq, and show you some of the neat things that go on with that. So let's get started with that. So I'm going to bring up here a overview map of the area of Iraq that I was in. You see off to the right there, that is Baghdad. That's the capital of Iraq. And if you move yourself left or west, you have the city of Fallujah. You may have heard of that because of a lot of fighting and things that's happened there during the Iraq War and after. Or Phantom Fury of that operation. You may have heard of that. If you move more west there, you see the big old lake there. It's called Lake Habbaniyah, and there is a town that's right near there. And right near Lake Habbaniyah and Habbaniyah is our air base. It was right on the lake. It was called Camp TQ, or Camp Taqaddum was its full name. And it was a big old Iraqi air base. And what they would do is they would fly in goods and things like that. We called the 3Bs, bullets, band-aids, and beans. They'd fly that into our base from all over the country or from other countries, take it off those airplanes, load up our trucks, because I was a truck driver back there, and I'll get into that in a minute. And then we would take a convoy and supply the surrounding bases in the area. Now, we were called General Support. Basically, we would supply those Camp Fallujah, Camp Ramadi, and then another one called Camp Al-Assad. And they would in turn take the things that we just gave them and then supply the little tinier, smaller bases that are inside the cities or inside their AOs called FOBs, Forward Operating Bases. So needless to say, we never drove in the cities or villages. We were always on the outskirts of, in the desert, in the middle of the desert. Now, you might think, well, so you didn't see anything. Well, I didn't see any combat. Didn't fire my weapons or anything like that. But we saw a lot of those IED roadside bombs, improvised explosive devices. And I'll have a story about that in a minute, about what happened to me with one of those bombs. Now, let me get into what the weapons that we used. Now, like I said, I was a truck driver, and we also would provide our own security. Basically, we'd have a driver and then somebody gunning on top of the truck. Not all trucks had a gun, needless to say, but I was a gunner, so I always had a gun. Now, the three weapons that we'd use, and I didn't really get to use this weapon. This weapon here wasn't my baby. It was a lot of fun to shoot when I did shoot it, but it wasn't my thing. Is the Mark 19. Basically, this is a grenade launcher machine gun, believe it or not. It has a belt of 40 millimeter explosive grenades on it. And it was a very slow firing rate. It was very thump, thump, thump type of a firing rate. And if you could look right at it, you would be able to see the rounds going downrange. That's how slow these things would go. And we only had about maybe one or two of these weapons in our convoys at a time, because they're very dangerous in the sense that if you shoot it too close and it explodes, you can also hit yourself. So we only had about one or two, and also too, it was kind of impractical. It was only really good effective long range, because for the whole explosion issue, of course, but there's also the other issue of it. The round has to do circular rotation so many times before it arms itself. So it has to be in the air long enough so the grenade will arm itself, and then it will explode. I think it was like 32 rotations it had to have before the round was armed. Now, the second weapon we used, and I used this too as well, was the M240 Golf. This weapon here is a machine gun, a medium machine gun, basically designed to destroy or suppress vehicles, jeeps, civilianized trucks, things like that. And like I said, it was a medium machine gun. It wasn't designed for personnel uses. Basically what that means is, if I would line up a whole line of people horizontally, and I would start at one end, hold the trigger down all the way to the rear, and just let it fire on a cycling rate. Basically, it's non-stop firing, and just move myself around across that line, I would hit about every other one. It didn't have enough firing rate to be a anti-personnel weapon. It shot the same round as an AK-47, 7.62, I believe, is what it is. Is the round that it shot, I believe it was. Don't quote me on it. I have to look it up, and I'm not quite sure. Now, the third weapon was my baby. This was the Mod Deuce 50 caliber machine gun. It was made to suppress tanks. Now, it didn't destroy tanks, but it was an amazing weapon that it made people think twice if you're in a tank to continue to keep coming at us, because it was such a beast of a weapon. It shot these huge rounds, as you can see in one of the pictures there, at somebody, 50 caliber machine gun rounds. And what it is, this, I believe, if I get this right, it's kind of complicated. It's the oldest weapon in the U.S. arsenal that is still used for its original use. Now, there are weapons in the U.S. arsenal that used to be actual combat weapons but are no longer, like ceremonial swords that NCOs and officers will carry during ceremonies. Those used to be combat weapons back in the 1800s or earlier. They're not used in combat anymore. This weapon was designed in World War II to suppress tanks and is still used to suppress tanks. So that's why I say it's the oldest weapon in the U.S. arsenal for its original use. And this is what we used all the time. This weapon was the first weapon in a convoy, and I gunned that. I was called lead gun. That's what I did. So that gives you a sense of what's going on here. So now we're running a little lower on time than I want to be, so I want to get into my story here. Basically, my first time over there, we were on a convoy going to, I think, Ramadi or something, one of the bases that were close. And we leave. We're about 2 or 3 miles out, and we get stopped because of an army convoy that's ahead of us because of they got blown up by one of those IEDs. Their truck hit an IED on the right-hand shoulder and just blew up their engine. It looked gnarled and nasty when we actually got up there to see it. The driver, everybody was fine. I believe the gunner, though, had to be medevaced to back to base to get some shrapnel out of his arm or something like that, but he was fine. So basically, when these things blow up, we have to get the EOD unit or the explosive disposal unit to come out and do a sweep, because what these insurgents were doing is putting down that first IED, waiting for someone to blow it up, and then they'll have a second one down to hit those first responders to those guys. So basically, they'd have 2 IEDs going off at once. So you had to be very careful about it. And what we did about it is that once those things would go off, and we made sure that everybody was fine in the truck that was first blown up, nobody would get out of their trucks. They'd wait for this EOD unit to come out and then do their sweep, and then let us know that it's okay to continue. And then we could do our recovery of the vehicle and that kind of thing. So basically, EOD would take about an hour or 2 to even get out to you, and then another hour or 2 to do their sweeps. So when they finally got done with everything and did their sweeps, it was 2 or 3 hours later. It was dark already, and they told us that we can go ahead of this army convoy, because this army convoy had to recover this downed vehicle that just got exploded. So they're on the right-hand shoulder, we're on the left-hand shoulder-ish, and I'm lead gun. I'm following our security. We do have a security Humvees in front of us, and I'm following them. And we get 30 feet away on a diagonal to them. My truck gets hit. I thought at first I was gunning that my driver messed up the truck, broke the truck. I'm yelling down at him, "What the hell are you doing, Sergeant?" and stuff like that. And then I tasted dirt in my mouth, and I was realized, oh my God, that's an IED. Luckily, I had a load or cargo on my bed, my truck, so the load or the cargo ate most of the blast. Because what happened is our third axle on our truck completed the pressure plate IED circuit, blew up the truck, killed the tire, and everything like that, and there pretty much was nothing left in my back axle, and it was pretty scary, to tell you the truth. I didn't get scared until a little bit later, but at the moment that happened and I realized there was an IED, I became very pissed off, because how does an EOD unit whose job is to find these things, I mean, they have machines to take x-rays of the ground, to find metal in the ground, take 2 hours or whatever it was, and they miss this thing that's 30 feet away from the original hole. My sergeant, I was yelling pretty loud at the time, and my sergeant had to calm me down and everything like that, and I finally did. And then after I calmed down, I realized how close I came to dying, I guess. But we were both fine. Everything was fine. Truck had to be recovered, and that was a bit of a pain. And we made a convoy that should have been done pretty, simply fast. Made it into an all-nighter, which was unfortunate. But things worked out, and everybody was fine. All right, guys, that's my story right there. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I do have some more, another story to tell you, and I'll tell you that in my 3rd episode. Click like if you enjoyed the video. Leave a comment, and we can talk about different things. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to ask. And I'll catch you guys in my next video. Take care, guys.